What's right then, you two? So I've been getting a lot of questions and comments and people asking about biomass plants, chop and drop species, support plants, service species, all terms that I use kind of interchangeably. And so I wanted to give a quick recap of what I mean by that. So people have asked, does XYZ plant count as a surface species, or can I use it for chop and drop? So let's review a few and I'll let you know what I mean and help you decide what you can use in your own system. So right here we have two right next to each other. This is the red Napier grass, and you can see the cut that I made right there. It's been like 2 weeks and it's already regrown by about 2 feet. This is a chop and drop service species. You can cut it multiple times all the way to the ground. It rapidly regrows and it'll rapidly regrow again and again. Right next to it we have Tithonia diversifolia, the Mexican sunflower. It's been cut down brutally to the ground, and it readily and rapidly and happily regrows. And you'll see I'm using it down both sides of this laneway as service species chop and drop. Here we have some examples of edible service support chop and drop species. So right here we have cassava, which in some places I harvested it out last year, in some places I just cut it back. You can see it's resprouted and regrown readily. I use this for cutting mulch, or I let it grow up and then I harvest for the root crop, depending on where it is and what else is nearby. Right next to it we have pigeon pea. Again, you can see where I've made cuts, you can see where I've made repeated cuts. It readily resprouts and readily regrows, and it makes an edible bean that I usually like to eat when they're tender and young. This is the dried version. You can still soak these and cook them and make whatever you want with those beans, or you can let it grow as a mulch species. And right next to it here, sugarcane, you can use the same way. In my climate, you can chop and drop it, or you can use it as a food crop to make obviously sugarcane juice or syrup. All of these, the reason they're in this line is because I can cut them down if I want to, or I can grow them up if I want to. They're just biomass species. All right, so here's another one, moringa. You can see where it's been cut back right here, all the cuts. These were grown by cuttings. They sprout readily, they grow up really fast. You can cut them back, they resprout over and over and over again. You can use the greens, just like if you know about moringa, you know about all the uses for the greens. Or you can use this as mulch for something else if you need to. It's another service species chop and drop. So my midlines here, you'll notice, are predominantly these fast growing service species chop and drop. This is what I would consider a placenta planting. This is the early stage of a food forest. All the stuff that grows up fast that I can cut back down. So I can generate a cycle of green that I have choices if I want to keep something or take it out anytime I want. It's there. It's oversupplied with green. I'm capturing as much sunlight as I possibly can. Here's another example. This is that canna lily I talk about all the time. I have cut this to the ground. If you saw it in my previous maintenance video, it's already resprouting, and it hasn't even really rained that much yet. You'll see it goes all the way up and down this line. This is another service species that grows fast. You cut it down and it resprouts. It doesn't waste any time. It's not slow. It jumps right up and it keeps on going. It produces biomass. It wants to grow. Another great example of a service chop and drop species is this ice cream bean. If you watched my video about the Felco mini loppers, that was only a week ago, and if you look, you see it's readily resprouting all over this thing. It responds to pruning. It wants to keep going. It doesn't mind being cut. I think it actually benefits from the cuts. And it's gonna keep throwing up green material that I can cut back down and use as mulch. You can see all the sprouts up and down. No fear pruning these things. Here's the stuff I placed. I'd said in the video, the previous video, is gonna turn brown and shield everything underneath it. You can see all the material down through there. So hopefully that clarified things. I know a lot of you know what I'm talking about when I say support species or when I say chop and drop, but the things to look for: does it take a cut? Will it resprout quickly? Will it replace itself? that's what you're looking for. In my climate, in my zone, I've given you a whole bunch of examples here. Your climate and your zone may be different. What works for me here may not work for you. If you're in a drier zone or a colder zone, you might have to work with different plants. Just wanted to give that perspective and that clarification so that you can help yourself figure out what works in your system. So hopefully that helped. Give it a like, and I'll see you next time.